Welcome to the Purposeful CEO podcast, the space for passionate, driven leaders who aren't just here to build a business, but to lead a movement. If you're here to make a real impact, to lead with purpose and create a legacy that lasts, then you are in the right place. I'm Emma Campbell, leadership coach, mindset mentor, purpose activator, and mama to two cheeky little munchkins. And for the past 15 years, I've helped small business CEOs scale their team without breaking their culture and unlock their team's full potential. And my mission has always been simple: to help those doing good in the world to do even more good and inspire belief in what's possible for you, because it's all so possible. Let each episode be your reminder to pause from the hustle and come back to you, your why, your purpose, your reason for why you started, to trust that inner knowing and to lead from that place, because when you do, everyone wins. Let's dive in. Hello. So happy to be here with you. I'm really looking forward to sharing my story with you today. I have actually been working with my own business coach for quite a few months now. And this is one of the pieces that I personally believe that your story is almost like the core thread of your work. And I believe it's such an important piece because it kind of lays the foundations for helping people understand where you came from and why you do what you do. I personally love stories. I love hearing people's stories, and I have a tendency towards asking people, like, how did you get to where you are? Like, what led you to doing the work that you're doing? And inadvertently, I realized I was asking people for a bit of their purpose story for why they chose the work that they're doing. And if you've ever tuned into any of the other Sparked podcast episodes, which was like the latest title of the podcast, you'll know that that's one of the ways that I just love to hear from the people that I bring on for interviews, is to ask them about their childhood and their childhood experiences that led to them being the leader that they are today and doing the work that they do. So I just know the power in a story, and I wanted to share mine. And I have to be honest, when I first started writing it down, I found it really hard. I asked myself, where do I start? Which pieces do I include? I'm obviously not going to tell you my whole life story, but what are the pieces that matter? What are the pieces that actually were important for you to hear? What helps you kind of understand yourself through my own story? All of these questions were going through my mind. And so what I did was started as far at the start that I possibly could without necessarily going into childbirth from my mum. I started from the place of where I think all good stories start. And that is what I'm going to call Struggle Town. Because I think most of our stories start from a place of pain, right? And the pain then kind of forces us to make a change. And then that change becomes part of our story. And so let's start there. I studied business and psychology at uni and majored in HR because I think I had asked my mum, what should I study at uni? And she had asked her friend, this is the process we went through. She'd asked her friend, what should my daughter do? Her friend was in HR, and my mum had said, oh, she likes people. She's good with people. And so my mum's friend had said, oh, she should do HR. And so my mum came home and said, my friend thinks you should do HR. And so that's what I did. So that was the process of like career alignment back then. Nothing fancy, nothing very overthought, but that was where it came from. I started a career in HR because I liked people. I managed to get a pretty cool job with an HR and management consulting firm, worked in a few different roles, and yeah, I thought like HR would be a really cool job because, you know, working with people, I should hopefully get to like help people thrive and like work at their best, right? Wrong. So, for anyone that's in the HR world, for anyone that's worked in HR, you'll know what I mean here when I very soon realized that so much of HR was actually not really about motivating people to reach their best or reach their potential. Like, so much of HR was actually like born around like disciplinary action, managing people risk, control, compliance, like maximizing productivity, forms, process. I don't know. It felt like this thing that should be all about people was suddenly not about people. It was about process and control. And it's just, there was something that just like never sat right with me in that job. Like I always had this like little feeling like there had to be a better way. And that, you know, this was not how HR was meant to be done. Like, I think I knew deep in my core that that was not how HR was meant to be. Like, I believed in, you know, tapping into people's potential, like unlocking their strengths and their passions and like playing to those things in their work, helping them motivate themselves, like goal setting, values alignment. Like I didn't believe that people were problems to be managed. I believe that they were potential waiting to be unlocked. And while I was in this job, so just to kind of like, take a few steps back here, I guess. Like I have experienced anxiety for a long time in my life. And while I was in this job, it was like my anxiety had like really come to a head. Like to kind of paint you a picture of where it was at, it was like hand shaking in meetings while passing the water jug to my colleagues, like that level of anxiety, like heart rate high, you know, just like that. Yeah, very, very highly activated. I've always been like a very high energy, easily activated individual. And I was a high performer in this role, but living in a place of like constant fear. And basically, like, my motivation was don't mess up. And like on the outside, I think everything like looked all rosy. You know, I was kicking goals, like I was quite a high achiever. So like I was very driven on like getting results for my bosses and workplace, getting all the promotions, the pay rises, you know, putting on a smile, on the road to being promoted to director, all of those sort of things. And while like on the outside it looked good, on the inside something was deeply missing. I was feeling so lost, and if I'm honest, a bit empty. I knew something was missing, but I didn't know what it was. I felt like something was kind of off, but I didn't really have the words to describe it. All I had was a feeling that I was craving something more. But I didn't really know what to do with that or how to solve it. It was just a feeling for me. So I did what all good employees do when I was a bit younger, and I swallowed that feeling down, as my husband and I like to joke. I switched it off like a light bulb. I don't know if anyone's seen that show, but anyway, that's for another day. But I swallowed that feeling down and kind of like just tried to ignore it and distracted myself on weekends with activities, alcohol, whatever. Because I didn't know what to do with that feeling, but it was still there, you know. I knew that there was something more for me, and this itch would just not go away. Have you been in that position before where there's like this kind of like intuitive sense that you have about something, or a feeling that's a bit off, or a feeling about something that you're meant to do, but it's either too scary or you don't know how to action it, and so you kind of just like push it down and hope it'll go away? Did it go away? That is the question. If you're anything like all of my clients and the people that I've spoken to, it never goes away, right? That little itch that you have for something more, it never fades. If anything, it gets bigger and bigger, right? And it's funny because while I was in that job, I had been scrolling online, can't even remember what I was looking for, but I'd come across this little thing called coaching. And I thought when I was reading about it that it just sounded, oh my God, like just too good to be true. Like, what? People get to talk to other people and help them achieve their dreams? You've got to be kidding that that's like a real job. Oh my God. Like, I was just like, this sounds so amazing, but how can this be real? And I had so many limiting beliefs at the time getting in the way, like all these stories going through my head saying like, oh, you could never do that. Like, who are you to think you could become a coach? You can't make money out of that. Plus, if you want to be a coach, you've got to be perfect. You've got to have it all together. And you are not nearly talented enough. You're not nearly smart enough or good enough. So squish that dream, please. Let me know if you're with me on some of those limiting beliefs, because that's where I was at in this particular job. You know, I had this dream, this little itch, this little feeling, this little intuition kind of like calling me and pulling me. But I also had these like giant limiting beliefs telling me to stay exactly where I was because I wasn't good enough for those dreams. So that's what I did. For a good few years probably, I pushed that feeling away. I kept up the facade of people pleasing and, you know, keeping everyone happy, trying to tick boxes and, you know, get ahead, whatever, all of those sort of things. However, that feeling, it never went away, never went away. And like a bobbing cork in water, if you try to push it under, like the more that you push a cork underwater, what does it do? It just keeps wanting to pop back up, right? And it was around that time of trying to balance pretending like everything was okay / like ignoring / pretending like the feeling wasn't there / desperately searching for something more meaningful, like thinking there has to be something more than this. It was around that time when the universe or some lovely coinkydink, whatever you want to call it, helped me out, delivered up the goods. So get this. An email pops into my inbox, and I remember the exact moment. I was sitting in my little office swivel chair right next to the window, staring at my computer screen when this email comes into my inbox, and it was from a headhunter asking me if I'd like to come and join them in starting up a new business, get this, on helping businesses become more purpose-driven and create more fulfillment for employees at work. And I was like, oh, what the hell? Oh my God. And my heart in that moment, like I can actually remember my heart and my, like actually leapt in my chest and my whole body like just activated. My whole body said yes. So you'd think I would have gone for it, right? Wrong. I sat on it, paralyzed, in a state of indecision for I think around 6 months. My poor husband and friends who got to hear all the ins and outs of that, basically toing and froing between my head and my heart. So my head, you know, the very rational, reasonable, strong, wise voice saying, no, stay here, stay in this very safe and comfortable job. This is the safe path. It's a smart choice that will guarantee you success. You know that old voice. And then the heart saying, oh my gosh, how fun will this be? Go for it. This is for you. Do it. This is your opportunity to make a difference and change lives. Yes, yes, yes. And so I was pulled back and forth between these two voices. There's this quote by Erin Hansen, actually, that I felt was very fitting for me at the time. And it said, what if I fall? Oh, but darling, what if you fly? And I still love that quote. I've got it sitting right next to my desk here today because I believe that that is like the state of our psychology in absolutely everything that we do. We are torn between what if I fall? Oh, but what if you fly? And it has been the thing that has motivated me out of everything. And so I'd like to say that in this moment of being offered this opportunity to join this new organization doing like the most perfect work, I'd like to say that I was like super brave and courageous and took the leap of faith on my own free will. I took a leap, but the truth is, after leaving this company hanging for 6 months, they finally gave me a gentle nudge to make a decision. They kind of said like, all right, come on, Emma, you've sat on this for too long. And they kind of like forced me into the decision. And it was only after being forced that I like finally took the leap. And I think it was also after my poor husband and friends being sick of talking about it with me for so long that I finally went for it. So I took that leap, I leaned into that fear and I went for it, and far out did life just blow up and deliver for me there. Something switched in me once I lent into that heart voice. I was like, I had experienced this crazy sense of energy like never before. Like I had never been that lit up, motivated, energized, and excited. Like I was buzzing. And it was when I first started with this incredible organization to help them, create a more purpose-led style of work for all of their clients. It was there that I had my eyes open to this thing called purpose, which I'd never really heard of before. Like, yes, maybe I'd heard it here and there in maybe like spiritual books or like life coaches sort of talking about like finding your purpose, and maybe Eckhart Tolle sort of talking about, I don't know, the purpose of life. Like I'd kind of heard it here and there, but I'd never really understood it in the context of organizations and teams and roles and leaders. And my eyes were just so opened to this whole new world. Oh, Lordy. And I went, part of my mandate in this role was to go deep into the research behind it. So I talked to so many thought leaders, researched all the best places to work in the world, discovered B Corps, conscious corporations, read all the books, the podcasts, the articles. I was like a sponge for everything to do with the impact of purpose-led organizations and how to discover your purpose, how to embed it into leaders and teams and organizations. Like if it was out there, I've read it because I was so deep in this world. And it's funny because I'd heard of this term purpose, but it was only once I started understanding it in the context of workplaces that it really started to shift for me, because I started learning that these employees or these teams that are driven by a purpose or something bigger than them, a strong why, and that they feel connected to that kind of bigger picture, they are more resilient. So they bounce back from failures faster. They're more engaged. They're less depressed. They're more motivated. They're more productive. They burn out less. They take less sick days. And not only are these people happier and more fulfilled in their work, but these organizations are also the most successful on the planet. And you might have heard me share this before, but these organizations attract 7 times more talent, 10 times higher performing. They attract 92% more consumers. They grow faster. They're 6 times more profitable. Like, these organizations are just killing it in all of the ways. They're happier and they're more successful. So they're getting the best of both worlds, right? Because so many people are one or the other. They might be doing really purposeful, happy work, but they're actually not getting the success. Or sometimes people are getting the success, but they're asking, like, why aren't I happy? These organizations have mastered the balance. And I remember, like, sitting there thinking to myself in that moment, I was like sitting in my little swivel chair. This time I didn't have a window seat. I had a little corner seat. And I was sitting there, like, staring at my screen with these wide eyes. With everyone, I remember, like, everyone was like really like madly working behind me while I was having this like giant aha moment. I was like, this is the thing that all organizations need. Oh my God, this is what is missing from so many workplaces. This was the missing piece. And I wondered to myself, how could employees' lives, or how could the world be changed if everyone was more deeply connected to the purpose and the meaning behind their work? How could the world be changed if every single person on the planet felt a deep sense of meaning in the work that they were doing, and that they understood how their work made a difference, and that they felt like their work really mattered? At the time that I was discovering all of this, it was very interesting timing, actually. I had a family member who was going through a really difficult time. It was a hard time in my life, some big transitions. I lost a dog unexpectedly. But primarily, there was a family member who was going through a really difficult time mentally. He'd sort of lost his way, not in a good place. And I was really concerned for him. He was on my mind a lot. I care a lot about him. And I guess I was always wondering to myself, how could I help him? How could I help him, knowing that so many people are in his place, right? So many of us have struggled mentally. So many of us have experienced anxiety. I've gone through a giant journey with it myself. So many people in the world feel disconnected, feel lost, and feel empty. And I just wondered to myself, is this the missing piece? Is this the missing piece? Like, everyone goes to work, right? Well, like, majority of people spend like 80% of their lives at work. But majority of us don't have a deep connection to the work that we do. And imagine the difference that it could make if people knew why they were here. Like, we need to know why we're here in this world, right? We need to feel a sense of meaning and connection to our work. We need to know it matters. We need to know that we're making a difference and how we're fitting into the big picture. Like, this is part of Psychology 101, right? Part of intrinsic motivation. If we don't have that sense of purpose, like, the opposite of that is just going through the motions. It's feeling like we don't matter, like our work doesn't matter. It's getting our work done because we're supposed to, because that's what the boss said, because we'll get in trouble if we don't, because it's part of our job description, but not really understanding why it matters. And when we don't have that connection to the why, it leaves us feeling empty. It leaves us unfulfilled, lost, scratching at the surface, skating along that surface of life. Perhaps maybe even if we're lucky, rising through the ranks, pushing for that next pay rise or promotion, but always being left with that sense of something missing, like something just not hitting the mark. It's because we haven't connected to that something bigger for us, that why, that reason, that purpose, the thing that gives our life meaning. And for me, discovering my purpose was the thing that got me out of that darkness that I could have fallen into at the time. It was the light that pulled me out, and I knew that it would do the same for others. And it has for so many of my clients. And I just felt like not enough people know this. There are so many benefits to it. Yet not enough people are aware of these and tapping into. They're still living in this kind of old school way, like ticking boxes and working in the hustle, but not really understanding the why. So that's why I knew I had to start my own business, to teach others exactly what I'd learned, how to connect with their own purpose, the benefits of leading from that place, how to build a purposeful organization and culture and tap into all the benefits of this, of having a thriving, lit up, empowered team culture that's high performing, optimizing your impact, creating incredible profits. Since connecting in with my purpose, personally, I'm really, really proud to say that my anxiety has dropped from probably it was up at around like an 8 or 9 out of 10 many days to averaging on a 1 or 2, give or take life circumstances. But overall, purpose has shifted the level of fear and self-doubt that I have, because I'm now connected to something bigger than me, something different than my fear. My business grew fast. My income tripled while my working hours halved. I started having way more fun, felt so much more in flow, felt more energized and fulfilled. And the thing that I'm most proud of, the piece that's really shifted my life when purpose came into it, is that I'm now so much better at taking action on the things that used to terrify me. Like speaking on stage to hundreds of people. Back in my day, before I discovered this purpose thing, there is no way that you would have got me on stage talking in front of loads of people. Now I've started my own podcast, and the reason I can do this is because I have a driving reason for it that's bigger than me. It's bigger than my bullshit. It's bigger than all my fear stories. It's bigger than all that self-doubt. Because when you're connected into your bigger driving why that's bigger than you, that's actually of benefit to the world, that has the power to overcome your little, small fears. Because purpose is about contribution. It's about giving, serving others. And when you tap into it, my experience is that it actually helps you get out of your head, get out of your fears, get out of your ego, and you actually focus on how your work makes a difference and how it's serving someone else. So you become less self-focused and more on how can you be of service, which actually helps you take action because you're not focused on yourself. Does that make sense? So that's what I do now. I help people tap into that purpose, their driving inner why, to bring it out into the world through their work, through their leadership, through their teams, and through their impact in their businesses, and actually help them create the most successful organizations on the planet that are driven by purpose. And that's my story. That is my story. And I hope that was interesting. And interesting for you. And I hope that you took something from it. And I would love to know yours. What's your story? What's the story that you're telling yourself about yourself and your work? I love a story. I'd love to hear yours. I'd also love to know if there's anyone in Perth or in Australia or in the world that you would love for me to bring onto the podcast so we can hear their story. Anyone that you feel inspired by as a thought leader or someone who's really like living their mission, who's doing incredible work in the world. Or I'd love if you slid into my DMs and voice messaged me a little bit on you and your story. I'm on Instagram. You could send me an email. I'll share my details in the show notes. But my favorite thing is to connect with you, to learn about you, to hear your story, to celebrate your story. Because I know that if you're here, you are one of these incredible, purposeful CEOs. You are one of these amazing leaders changing the world for little or large, right? Because it all matters. And there's such a ripple effect in when we step into our purpose work, it gives other people permission to do the same, right? And when we're in that energy of like impact, making a difference, doing good, oh my God, like the flow on effect of how that inspires your team and then how they show up differently in their work and how they do better work to serve your customers. Like that's the stuff, right? That's how we grow our businesses, from stepping into our own purpose. All right, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please send me any feedback, thoughts, share it on your social media if it really resonated with you. I'm super, super, super keen to be able to grow this podcast further and greater and bigger and get it into more hands of the people that need it, people that are feeling lost and stuck, who are wondering why their work doesn't feel inspiring and fulfilling, people who have energy and they don't know where to put it and they want to actually find a purpose and start a business and put it into work. This is for them. And the bigger that this podcast grows, the more incredible people that I can bring onto it and the more value that I can add into your life as well. So I would so love if you shared it around. Sending you so much love, and I will connect with you soon. Thank you so much for listening. If you got value from this episode, I've got a little request for you. Either share it with a fellow leader who you know needs this in their life, or leave a super quick review. It only takes a few seconds, yet it helps us so much in expanding our reach and our impact and bringing on even bigger names onto the potty to then inspire your growth and your journey. I love and appreciate you so much. Thank you in advance, and I can't wait to see you next time.